Item 1 is call to order. This meeting is now called to order. We will go by introductions. I will start. My name is Patrick Delaney. I'm the 7th District Alderman.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
Justin Lewis, District 3.
Matt Zacher, Mayor.
Tyler Mickelson, IT Manager.
Ryan Hartman, HR Manager.
Ben Gudero, Fire Chief.
Thank you. Item 2, discuss a referral from Alderperson Delaney regarding an employee recognition program for employees of the city. This was something that we had asked the HR to reach out to the employees and see if the employees are interested in some sort of recognition program. So I will let Mr. Hartman speak on this.
So we ran the survey, excuse me, we ran the survey. The responses were from 76 respondents. 51 of them voted in the negative to have an Employee of the Month program. 25 voted in favor to have an Employee of the Month program. So I guess, my recommendation would be not to have an exact term of Employee of the Month program, but that does not necessarily negate having the ability to create a recognition of some sort within the departments, be it a cookout or a department get-together, something along those lines. But I just wanted to share the actual numbers that came back. 76 respondents with 51 being in the negative. Thank you.
Do we have any more discussion on this? Go ahead.
Is there anything in place currently, let's say somebody from the community submits a email or calls and says, I would like to, recognize a certain employee that really was outstanding. Is there anything in place other than maybe forward the email, or is there a policy or procedure for that?
Is there something formal in place?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. And that's one of the things, as we were talking earlier, that would not be opposed to. Call it like an above and beyond. I've talked to a couple of council members as well as some employees, and it was more along those lines of if you see a firefighter or a police officer go above and beyond, or a street department worker do something for the example that was provided to me was helping an elderly person in a snow event, and they help them to their car, whatever, and that person wants to send a message to the mayor's office that there would maybe be some sort of, recognition to that employee if they so chose. So.
Okay.
I was looking to have this more of a recognition program, not Employee of the Month. I never wanted it to be called Employee of the Month. I don't know where Employee of the Month came from, maybe because it was on a monthly basis. I thought we had recognized some of our employees for the outstanding and excellent work that they do. But it's not whatever. It's dead. So I'm ready to lay this to rest. Is there any more discussion on this at all?
No, I think some of the reasons, well, it was bounced around about a month ago, and of course, one of the reasons was this person here, why did he get picked and not me, or whatever. And I think hopefully you wouldn't ever have it, but human nature, the way it is, it does happen. So, yeah, I don't think at the moment it's not a good setup, not monthly anyway.
Any more discussion on this? All right, moving on to item 3. Discuss and consider for approval a request from Mayor Zacher for an organizational restructure, removing Wisconsin Rapids Community Media from the Information and Technology Department and having the multimedia coordinator report directly to the mayor. See supporting documents. Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you. Yes. I think there is a few extra documents in there. I'm not sure how that played out, but the main thing here is there hasn't been anything that hasn't gone. I'm not doing this in the sense of something's wrong. I'm doing this in the sense of when I ran for mayor, I knew for the last 20 years, as people were talking to me, that they wanted more connection with the city, more communication, more transparency. And I believed, as I ran for mayor, that, I was going to work towards building a stronger communications department, whether that's, right now what we're focusing on with WRCM is, our organization with the community, with the residents and businesses. I think we're taking great steps already to do that in the videos that we're doing and things that we're putting out there. But we do want to take it to a new level as we bring our new website online and how we're going to use that as a marketing tool for engaging with the community. And then also with that, being able to bring out more videos and more closer connection with the community. I want to have direct contact with that. Right now, it's the WRCM department. Over time, most likely, I would like it to evolve into a full-on communications department with Joe answering directly to me so that I believe as the mayor's office is most directly connected in many ways to the community and gets the most feedback. And that's what I would like to continue to grow and build with Joe's help and Taylor's help. And again, everything else, Tyler's done a great job leading that way. But at the same time, I don't see the connection to the overlap between what the IDT department is tasked with inside the organization, and that in many ways is a huge mountain to climb, and they're doing a great job between him and Kelly and Justin to do that. But there's a lot of work to be done there and to focus on. So I don't think there'll be any lack of that, but I will appreciate your support in this and moving the WRCM in direct contact with me. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Pluis.
I appreciate the initiative to improve the communications in the community, and I like what you talked about, making there more information available to the public. But I do have a couple of concerns by moving this, separating this from the IT department, for the simple fact, and I'm not accusing you of this, but I think it would be very easy for a future mayor to use that community media to their advantage to maybe push their agenda or to help self-promote themselves or help with their re-election when you have the community media reporting directly to an elected official. With that also, I know community media is responsible for setting up candidate interviews and setting up the debates. That may make for a really awkward situation if you have to interview essentially your direct supervisor. And that might not lead to a very transparent and open type of communication. My other concern, looking at the org chart that was provided in the packet, we got a total, with the proposal, a total of 13 direct reports to the mayor's office, 14 if you include the executive coordinator. That's a lot of direct reports to one individual, and I'm sure you're perfectly capable, but that does put a lot on your plate. And I look at it, you look at it as like you're the CEO of a municipal business, right? That's for you to understand fully what each one of those direct reports jobs are, just makes it more difficult the more you have. Like the recommended span of control is 5 to 7, and there's 14 of them here. It's almost double the maximum recommended. So I think for the reason that it increases the number of direct reports to the mayor, that may make things more complicated. And the image to the community that you have, the communication system for the city being directly controlled by an elected official, I feel like that's not the image we want to portray. It is if we're trying to portray the image that we're an open, transparent form of government. So I guess with that, I don't know if I can support the proposal.
Let the mayor go. The mayor's going to talk.
Go ahead.
No, I think it's a really good point. And again, I do realize that it's not my intention. And I think there's been other times in the past when that manipulation could be done anyways. As far as bandwidth, yeah, I don't know how to speak to that because I'm already over double. So, yeah, I get that. And again, if you guys decide that this is the way to go, I mean, I support that 100% too. Either way, I still think that we need transparency and we need further communication in the community, whether that is through another voice to get to the voice that I need to talk to. And to me, it just gets more convoluted and like Chinese telephone, you know, like you're just trying to carry it forward. But again, either way you guys decide, I support that 100%, and I appreciate that feedback. I don't know, Tyler, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
In terms of, honestly, I don't have much. I think the mayor has a vision that of a way of doing things. Just to say real quick, in the 5 years I've led the department, I'm proud of the work we've done. We've had different levels of instruction. Mr. Pluis, I agree with you that sometimes it would be, I guess, there's been, in the past, WRCM may have been seen as a wing of the city as opposed to a neutral entity, and that depends on if you agree with the mayor or not at the moment, or if you agree with his political stance or and not. So I think there is some cloudy areas there, but in terms of general workload and everything like that, as I've stated before, IT is a big enough department sometimes that we can focus on a lot of things. I try not to grind in the day-to-day of WRCM and what they are doing. I trust that staff to get the job done, and I know that the job would be done whoever is in charge of the department. So I guess that's my 2 cents in this. I have some direct questions. So
I was going to give the floor to you, Mr. Pollock.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, if you had these extra two people, would there become a time where maybe you could put them in some other department for maybe a temporary situation if somebody was shorthanded, or would they strictly be just out of your office?
Well, they would have their own department still. Like, they're not coming into my office. They're staying at their offices and studio down at the Centralia Center. And that would stay the same.
Yeah, I understood that, but they would do answer to you, though. That's,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be like any other department head right now would answer to me, but they would be out of their place where they reside, whether it's in City Hall or at the streets or fire department or whatnot.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a restructure. We're not adding any more employees. Is that
Yeah, we're not really changing anything in terms of, besides, instead of me wanting to talk to Joe, like to talk to Joe through Tyler, I would just talk to Joe. So again, either way you guys set this up, I realize I'm all about transparency. I think we need more of it whenever I can do, but I also get your point that I am who I am, and whoever comes after me then, but opens up that doorway to that. Hopefully we don't have that, but it could happen. So I agree with that.
I think the public is smart enough to see when a media organization is leading them opposite of what they think is right. I mean, if they are promoting propaganda, In this case, it seems like okay, so the media department is still under your control right now. It's not like they're not under your control. You're just moving it so that you're taking away a step of going through Tyler so that you would have somebody directly reporting to you.
Yeah, I would think when it comes to it, again, it comes down to it to decide. Like I've had these conversations with Joe, and Joe's very well aware of those cautions of making sure it stays professional, making sure that, I mean, even now he's got to do that, you know, and you walk that fine line. So I would depend on them, and I've said that clearly. Like if I ever, you know, step on that line of I guess, you know, corruption or just self-interest, that they need to be the first ones to let me know that. But again, if I'm creating a scenario where it makes it tougher for that, or easier, I should say, we want to make sure we take corrective action right away.
For me personally, I think that the chiefs, like fire chief and the police chief, they should be able to organize their organization the way that they want. That is reasonable. That's within reason. And this is kind of the same situation where we have an elected official that would like to make a change, and I'm for those changes. Mr. Pluis?
I just wanted to make sure I state for the record and that I'm clear that I'm not concerned about the current mayor using this as an advantage to himself. Not the concern, but I do have, you know, the concern that it does open the door for anybody in the future without that layer of insulation. It's different than, you know, the fire chief and the police chief that you just mentioned, because they're non-elected. And there's also a police and fire commission to hold them accountable as well. But you know, in this case, you know, there's not a direct supervisor that can act. And in this case, it'd be Tyler, act as that insulator from the media being requested to report, or to maybe even not report on something that the citizens should really know about. So I just wanted to state for the record that I'm not concerned about our current, you know, elected officials. It's just make sure we set ourselves up for the future.
I did have one other question. Is there an overlap in any of the employees currently that work in IT and WRCM?
Probably mostly with Tyler, like making sure the holes are plugged when they need help and stuff like that. Other than that, not so much. Joe and Taylor are the ones who run the show and intern when somebody's in that position.
Mr. Pollock?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For one, I'm in favor of turning this over to the mayor, because it's, if you feel that you can operate the city a little bit better by having these two people working with you, I see nothing but good things that could happen out of that. So if you're waiting for a motion, I would so move that we grant the mayor's request.
I'll second that.
I was going to ask one more thing. Since Sue's here, happy birthday, Sue. Is there anything that we should be concerned about when this comes to, you know, the direct access of a mayor to their own community channel or department?
Well, I mean, I think I would say most of the issues would be, you know, might be apparent no matter what the structure was, right? I mean, I guess, I mean, you could contact Joe directly right now and ask him to do a campaign video or something for you versus if you're a supervisor, telling him to do a campaign video for you. So, I mean, I guess I don't really, I mean, there is, that, the issue of making sure that the public access channel is, nonpartisan, kind of apolitical, but then the other part of that is it should be a good communication tool for the city and the mayor and department heads. So, I mean, I guess the only, the part that might, the cause for, the only cause for concern would, probably is there no matter what. But, I could see where if there was going to be some type of kind of misconduct regarding that, if it's, if it's someone that's reporting directly to you, and as you had said, well, they would hope they would tell you that they're crossing the line, but I don't think, how comfortable are they as you're the supervisor? So to have someone else to go to basically say, these directives or whatever I'm not comfortable with, hopefully that person might, come to legal or might go to HR or something. But obviously, it's difficult when, your direct supervisor might be asking you to do something and you're not comfortable with it. But as long as, there are other avenues. But, I mean, in terms of legally, how it works, I mean, it doesn't really, in terms of how the structure is, I don't think there's any real legal concerns regarding it. I mean, it always has been, under IT, since we've had an IT department. I personally don't think there's a problem, or should there be a problem? If there's a problem, then I think it's more a communications problem, or unsure of kind of how things work versus something that then it has to have this big change. But some cities have it this way, and I don't really have strong feelings on it one way or the other. I know, actually, when I was on the Telecommunications Commission, this was years ago, we used to have a Telecommunications Commission, and at that point, the director or the head of the public access did report directly to the mayor, but that kind of evolved as originally in a voluntary position, and when that person left, then I was actually in charge of telecommunications for a while, and it does, it does require some, I think, some time and some oversight, and but I don't really have strong feelings one way or the other. I think if there are issues now with how things are happening, I think I question whether it might be just more of the communication, or maybe not an understanding of maybe, a way to do things that is more streamlined. And I don't think that if you want a video made, you shouldn't have to go to Tyler. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, or you shouldn't have to ask his permission to, so, but I don't really have any strong feeling one way or the other.
Thanks. I think either way then, between Joe and maybe just Joe, or do some research, but come up with a pretty solid, policy on, I mean, ultimately, I guess the mayor can change a policy, but I think it should be put in place that we safeguard that, whether you report to me or to Tyler, to me, or whatever, or to the mayor position, we should still have a policy in place. That way you can always fall back on it. And I've never had any department head so far in 10 months have any issues telling me I can't do something. So I think they're all pretty good at standing their ground when they know what's right and what's wrong. So, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we will move to vote. Those in favor of the organizational restructure, please respond in the affirmative.
Aye.
Yes. Those opposed?
Nay.
The yeses have it, 2-1. Item 4, Discuss and consider for approval the hiring of a temporary firefighter within the fire department due to extended leaves in the department. Mr. Hartman.
So, thank you. We are asking for, fire department is asking for a temporary hiring of a firefighter due to at least a 1-year absence of a current firefighter, thus the long-term leave request. They will be gone during that time. The last replacement that we did was in 2023 for a temporary firefighter. And that was one for an equal amount of time and one for less amount of time. That was for, we tried to fill 2 at the time, and I think we maybe only hired 1. But anyway, the request is there for that, for a long-term leave of a year. And Fire Chief Goodrow is here if you have any more finite questions on that agenda item.
Any questions or comments on this at all? Mr. Pluis.
I can comment because I can speak to, history of where this has been done in the fire department before. And it helps them keep their staffing up, helps reduce overtime. And overtime, the amount of overtime sometimes is required to work by these individuals can easily lead to burnout, especially with the increased call volume. So if anything we can do to reduce the amount of overtime with a temporary employee,
Can you speak into your microphone a little?
I see as beneficial. So.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Pollock?
Well, if this is granted, how soon would it take to hire somebody? Or how would you advertise for it? Or,
It'd be the same way we do any firefighter. We would put out a job posting. They would have to be established on the eligibility list, so it would take some time. I'm guessing probably at least a couple of months by the time somebody were to get in here. And then obviously their training, so on and so forth. But they have to meet certain requirements and certifications. They have to go through an interview process with the PFC, get established and put on the eligibility list. Prior to that, passing the backgrounds. So it wouldn't be like they would be here in the next week or so. This would be probably, and maybe Ben can speak more to it, but I'm going to say 2 months.
well, if you went up to 2 months with that, would you be shorthanded during any of that time period?
Dennis, we've been shorthanded for a while, but
I
can speak
I've
to
heard that, yeah.
Mr. Hartman's comments. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but we've established, or we are in the process of establishing a list. We could potentially hire off of that list this temporary position. Obviously,
That-
we'd have to present that individual a contract. They would have to understand that this would be a temporary position of
Yep.
a year, potentially some more time too. But
Correct. In this position, the vacancy, to Dennis, to your point, I apologize if you were thinking the vacancy is happening now. The vacancy wouldn't occur until, I believe it's August.
I think he's got some, and this is one of our employees that's going to be serving overseas, so he's doing something honorable for our country. But in that meantime, to maintain that staffing at the fire department, that's why this proposal is in front of you. I believe that he's got some onboarding in the next few months, and then I believe he gets deployed in June. So from June on, I anticipate his absence for over a year.
You're correct, Ben, it's June.
Okay.
Yep, I just looked.
Okay, thank you for the added information,
Yep.
appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I apologize, Justin, but you're a pretty soft-spoken fella, and I only got the last 2 words of what you said. Could you?
Repeat.
Thank you. Yep.
Sure. I just know that the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department has done this before with certain individuals. It helps reduce the amount of overtime that's required from everybody else to pick up that slack of that missing employee. So, and with increased overtime as it is, and then to add be down another whole person to fill with overtime, just could potentially lead to burnout of those individuals. So in the hopes of trying to eliminate some of that overtime and prevent burnout, I would support this proposal.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the hiring of one temporary firefighter position within the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department due to long-term leave with an end date of 12/31/2026 or until the employee on leave comes back,
I'll
whichever.
second that.
That is my motion, yes. Pluis seconded it.
So the dates you're putting on would be, so you're putting a limit, a maximum on how long this employee could be employed
Correct.
for the fire department? Okay,
Yeah, sorry, I just used the verbiage from the 2023 of the, with the sunset of the end of the following year or upon return of,
well, I think it's up to the department to determine how long, I mean, I can see putting the maximum, but it might be, you know, we're not guaranteeing this employee employment for a certain period of time, right? I mean,
Yeah, and
they're going to be probation, they're really treated as a regular employee. We really don't,
Correct.
for purposes of the contract, they're going to be on probation. So,
and there really is the potential for a vacancy to
Right,
occur. And then
absolutely.
contractually, we may want to keep this
Yeah,
employee
right,
longer or
right.
make them permanent too. So yeah, I'm not sure where you want to go with that, but.
right. But I think, I guess as long as, to have this firefighter be employed, you know, at whatever, at the discretion of the department, but not to exceed so many months, I guess. And then you always can come back and hire that person as a permanent or extended or, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking about really the firefighter is hired as a regular employee. And it's just that we're telling the employee, you will probably be laid off once we're back to full staff. It's more a reduction in force thing. So, I mean, I guess the date of 12/31, that would be almost two years, right?
Well, by the time we onboard them, like Ryan had indicated, it might take us, we still have candidate interviews to set up for the application process that just
Right, so they
closed
wouldn't start
March
till-
1st, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the employee wouldn't be told I mean, everything's kind of up in the air and there's no guarantee of employment over a certain period, or guarantee that you're going to be moving into a vacant permanent spot. So,
Mr. Pluis.
Yeah, and I believe, just reviewing the labor agreement, the city in the labor agreement reserves the right to lay off personnel within the department, so.
but I was concerned that by saying this temporary employee will be employed until 12/31/2026, that wasn't,
Yeah, would that supersede? Yeah.
yeah.
Or until the employee returns. That was the motion.
Well, and that's the thing too.
You might have another employee leaving.
Yeah, or that said employee may decide to go to work for a different fire department. So,
Yeah, so you're really, I guess maybe if we think about it more as a position versus the person, right? You have the ability to have an additional person on staff,
during an extended leave.
yeah, something like, and then whether that could be two different people that might need to, in case that person gets hired, like you said.
Yeah.
Or it could be for another reason, maybe the military leave is only 3 months, but now you have another leave or someone else is going. So, yeah, whatever, I think what the chief kind of said there at the, to have it until what? You said for so many months?
Well, I mean, the only thing that we know is this gentleman's going on military leave for 12 months. I understand there's some reintegration period that also that individual is eligible for per federal laws. So, I mean, it could be up to 15 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, Attorney Schill. This isn't something where we want to say, you know, that person is obligated to have employment with us through that date that we set. So, I mean, the challenge of recruiting a firefighter in this day and age, telling them that they have a finite employment, not based on their performance, is very difficult. But we'll go over that hump.
Right, so I think if you just, the ability to fill an additional position for up to, whatever, 18 months or whatever, and obviously, and then that isn't necessarily hiring one person, that's just your ability to fill it, and then you could,
And potentially maybe we
yeah.
work something in where it gets reviewed back here.
Right.
Because obviously, if both positions exist, then that would be adding staff, and that should
Right,
come in
come
front of
back
the
to,
committee
right.
anyways.
So this motion was the same verbiage that we used 2 years ago in 2023. As Mr. Hartman had pointed out, it's the same exact thing that had passed when we had temporary positions available because of the same type of, well, because a firefighter was gone. So this is the same verbiage used.
If I may, I would think, as Ben and Sue pointed out, though, they did point out a couple good things based on, I think, the two other leaves. We maybe did have more of a finite deadline as to when Ben can probably remember more so, but I think now that, in saying that, there was more of a finite deadline upon the return, and thus, I'm thinking that's maybe why we had the 12/31/2023 or upon return of the leave. So I can rewrite the motion and send it to you if you want for that approval, if you want that. Because I also think, and Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they do get a temporary firefighter gets a separate contract that I've seen before.
No, I think we had a
It-
grievance that a temporary firefighter is treated like
Yep.
they're hired as a regular employee, and it's just a matter of telling them that you're kind of an extra for now, and you will be the first to be, when the force is reduced, or when we're
Sure.
back up to full staff, then you will, no longer be employed. So I don't think it's a separate contract. They're hired under the contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more so like in their offer letter, it just states what you just said.
Yeah,
kind
we
of
just caution
first
them
to
that
go
it's
and-
not, it's anticipated that, this is an extra, basically, right?
Okay.
Would there be the potential to utilize this individual in the future if there were leaves intermittently, and I'm not talking part-time, but a long-term extended leave during a period of which the military leave returns and another employee goes on, say, a 6-month leave? And I only bring that up, and it's not Pandora's box, but in the sense of, I don't think we want to put a date on this at all, because I think it's advantageous for the city and this employee to continue employment.
I think, yeah, if I understood correctly, I think that's what Sue was saying, if there was another leave to happen. So you'd have multiple leaves out there, and then one returns, you'd still have this position in play.
It would make no sense to let that individual go on, say, a particular date when then we would be short-staffed again.
Or you'd have to bring it back here. Yeah.
That would be my recommendation.
So to me, it seems more like we are creating more of a policy of having somebody available, like when we have an extended leave that you are going to have somebody. Because if you're not putting a date on it, that's essentially what you're doing. You're kind of creating a new position in a way, because you're not putting an end date on the temporary employee. And I know we did do this a few years ago. I don't know if this is something that happens regularly throughout all of municipalities, that they have to have a fill-in worker.
If I may.
Go ahead.
I think what we're dealing with here is we don't have a lot of redundancy in our employment at the fire department to cover those gaps, leading to a lot of the overtime that Mr. Plouffe was talking about. And because of the lack of those redundancies, so you think about building I don't know, if your mind goes to building construction, you think about building a wall, or, studs are 16 on center, but if you start to take out some of those studs, that redundancy isn't there, and the strength of the wall or the roofing system, the trusses, are kind of broken down. So we're looking to add a truss here because we are essentially short a few here or there, and we don't have the redundancies to keep, our public safety where it needs to be. So this proposal gets us at least to where we need to be on solid ground, rather than expecting everyone else to pick up that shortage.
Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, what are the feelings of the union on a situation like this? If you hire somebody like this, after so many days, would they have to join the union, or do the unions have a say in this one way or the other, or?
I guess I can't speak for them. I would probably get in trouble if I spoke for them.
Yeah, I suppose.
But at the same time, I think they would look at it as additional staffing where we have a gap, and I think that they would appreciate someone else assisting in our workload at the fire department. As far as membership, that would be up to that individual. I don't think that they're coercively made, but I could be. I was a part of a union at one point in time. I don't recall anybody saying you have to join, but I guess that would be up to that individual who would join if they wanted to be a part of that organization or not.
Of course, if they belong to the union, then there's,
Well, right, that's
there's
what,
a contract that,
and that's what Attorney
create a
Schill was
problem.
saying was, we've gotten in trouble as a city in the past by not putting them within that contract. And there was a grievance, so there's some past practice there that has been resolved. So the gray area that we're kind of talking in has already found resolution. So they fall under that labor agreement since they are a laborer.
yeah, I
with
understand that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Mr. Plewis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, sorry.
I think there is a bit of a difference from now to compare to when we maybe did this a few years ago. And the difference is the amount of overtime that's already been required of the current personnel. And that increased overtime is because the employee pool is different than what it used to be. It used to be when you had a job application opening for the fire department, you would get 60 applicants for the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department. Now, we're lucky if we get one or two with the right certifications to apply. So that means vacancies are left open longer, and the longer vacancies are left open, the more is required of the current personnel to fill those vacancies and work that overtime. So right now, the staff already, because they're covering different vacancies, being short, have already been tasked with working overtime. And now you open the door to a 1-year period of time where that vacant position is going to have to be filled with overtime. it's just going to perpetuate the problem. So I think that this temporary, this firefighter that you may be adding on at maybe a temporary basis is necessary. I don't know if it's necessary for us to make it more complicated by putting timelines and dates on it, because the contract specifically says the city maintains the right to lay off any employees at any time. So if it becomes where in the department where that employee comes back from military leave and we don't need that temporary employee anymore, by contract, the city can say, thank you, but now we're full, we'll put you on the wait list. I think that's not likely going to happen because history has proven that when the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department's hired these temporary employees, there becomes another vacancy through retirement or maybe another extended leave. So they've historically, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but the last 3 temporary employees soon became permanent employees because of retirements through attrition. So.
Yeah, that's a correct statement. We've lost, or not lost. People have retired, extended leave. We've also lost a great deal of talent over the last few years. One of them sits across the aisle from me now. So. But yeah, Justin's right in the sense that, the ebb and flow of an organization is there's going to be people coming and going. Lateral transfers exist in many other departments. A spouse lives in Wausau or Eau Claire, that individual might be more inclined to leave towards that area and be by their family. So, in the next year and a half, the potential is very high that one of those events could happen, a retirement, someone leaving for a different position, or an extended leave again.
Well, thank you. I was thinking of asking that question because I thought that would a possibility that could happen, and you said that it has happened in the past. So
I can't recall one of these temporary employees that we've put on over the last 15 years that didn't end up a full-time employee, just due to those situations.
Okay. Well, thank you again for the added information.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
So I guess what I signed this requisition for was this one situation where we have a gentleman, again, that's going overseas to serve our country, and much appreciated. If we're having another conversation about temporary employees that fill in for the overtime instead of bringing in the full-time people, I think that's a different conversation that I'm certainly willing to have and we can talk about, but I think that's separate from what we're talking about right now, or at least we should be talking about right now. But I'm certainly open to that conversation.
I think what got brought up and why it might seem confusing is I think they had talked about in their proposal dropping the date. And that was the only thing that I think changed from what I sent you for signature, right?
Right.
Okay.
This one gentleman, right?
Yeah. So really the only thing that's changed, it's still a temporary employee. The only thing that's changed is I think there's a discussion on not creating a hard date as an end. Is that correct, Sue?
Well, I was concerned more with saying we're going to hire this temporary employee until 12/31/24. I think I think you're going to hire the employer or have this additional position, but then still have a date, not to exceed whatever, 15 months or something like that. But
Okay.
so it's more semantics, I guess, of having a position, which could be 2 different people during that time, right? Or 3 different people because they get a job somewhere else, or they're hired permanently for us to fill it, versus one person until 12/31/26. So I guess, and I'm sorry then if I may have misspoke, if it was going into more of, so that you might have that person for other needs too, I guess, that I guess I didn't mean to go quite that far, but I think I agree with the mayor that this was brought up maybe for this one instance, and my main concern was putting, saying you're hiring a person until 12/31/24, but and basically having that employee feel like they're entitled to that job until then, whereas a lot of things could happen in the meantime. So, I would be fine with, just having that additional person, until, if you want to be specific to the date that the person gets back, or a maximum of 15 months, but you could still tie it to that person. But it's really just the position and not necessarily a person being hired for a date certain. I guess that was the only point I'm making. I'm sorry if I kind of muddled everything up here.
Do we have clarity, or are you, Ryan or Mr. Hartman, are you good with? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, yes, to what your intent was for this one position, for this one leave. To Sue's point, there might be other leaves that occur, but within a certain time frame. So I think the motion should be whatever the month, be it 15, 18, 12, whatever the month time frame would be. So yes, I'm okay.
I think if we have it until 12/31/26, that's close to 2 years from now. And that would definitely cover this situation, which we are speaking about now, about the guy going away on leave. I'm not going to change the motion. We do have a motion. It was seconded. I think Mr. Pluis seconded it.
Mr. Chairman, before we vote on it, what have we decided on the wording now? We've bounced all kinds of things around. In a nutshell, what type of wording is in the motion?
Chair, can you repeat your motion?
Yeah, I can repeat the motion. The motion is to approve the hiring of one temporary firefighter position within Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department due to long-term leave with an end date of 12/31/2026, or upon the return of the employee on leave, whichever comes first. Any more discussion concerning this? We will take it to vote. Those in favor, please respond in the affirmative. Yes.
Aye.
The yeses have it. 3-0.
Thank
Moving
you.
on to the next item. Thank you, Chief. Item 5, the committee may vote to go into closed session under Section 19.85, Para 1, Para E, Wisconsin statutes, which reads, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. In closed session, the committee will discuss negotiation and bargaining strategy regarding labor negotiations with WRPPA and IAFF, and may discuss terms of successor labor agreements with WRPPA and IAFF. I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Delaney, second by Pluis. Any discussion? We'll take it to a vote. Those in favor of going into closed session, please respond in the affirmative. Yes. That is 3 yeses. We will be in closed session.